first BJJ live stream, whether you're watching live or whether you're watching it back. I'll just get my screens up so I can see what I'm doing. Okay, so there's a couple of people online, so that's always good. Got the live chat up, so if you want to ask me questions as you go through, then you can ask questions, and I'll try and get through through some of them. Okay, so if you've come on line, you'll have seen a couple of my other videos maybe about Jiu-Jitsu, or rather my take on Jiu-Jitsu. That's 52 sessions in a month, or the time I went to 15 sessions in 5 days. That was in LA with Eddie Bravo, 10th Planet. I also did Jiu-Jitsu versus the Ocean, where I took a black belt Jiu-Jitsu player and I took him and taught him some freediving techniques, took him freediving, and just saw the transfer of skills from one to the other. So if you've seen any of my other videos, you'll see that actually I'm a professional freediver, and I teach breathing and relaxation techniques, predominantly for freediving, but we do get a lot of other sporting people along to our courses, and I have taught some of them, some of those techniques. I did a session at Roger Gracie's academy in London, which is where I sometimes train, in fact where I mostly train. Not that I'm training at the moment. In the UK we're still in lockdown, so we're not allowed to train at all until next week. So hopefully next week we'll be going back to training. But I've had a lot of questions come through on the videos. I've also been asked quite a few times by people to do like a live stream and talk about my views on Jiu-Jitsu. So that's what brought around this live stream. So going to answer some questions live. I've got some questions that have been sent through, and I'm going to go through them. But I wanted to start with, it says the title of this is Rock Up and Roll, what I've learned. And it seems it's a bit hard to describe, but the way I see Jiu-Jitsu apparently is different from other people. It's a bit hard to describe because the way I see Jiu-Jitsu is obviously the way I see Jiu-Jitsu, and that's it's hard to describe something that the way you see it if you don't kind of see it another way. Then I mean, many people see Jiu-Jitsu as in the old tradition of martial arts, where you train at one center, one academy, under one instructor, and it's disrespectful to go to different places and train with different people. But I don't see Jiu-Jitsu like that at all. From the very beginning of my training, I saw it as about 7 years ago now that I started training, and so from the very beginning I saw the potential of it as a game for me to use as a game. For instance, very similar to tennis. Now, I've never played tennis, but I've used this example a few times to people, that once you've learned the basic game, you can effectively take your tennis racket anywhere in the world and just rock up a tennis court and ask somebody, do you want a game? And you can just play. You both know the rules are international, and you can play. And I enjoy that side of Jiu-Jitsu very much. I like going to different places, seeing different styles, different ways of doing stuff, but ultimately anywhere in the world. It's incredible that you can just slap, bump, and then start rolling. And I felt there was a definite point in my game, maybe 3 years in, probably when I got my blue belt. Funnily enough, looking back, it actually makes sense. Where I knew enough that I could say I could play the game. I knew the rules, and I knew enough that I could play the game. And well, that's it. That's what I do. I love going around to different places and just playing the game with different people. I love rolling with white belts. I always remember when rolling with white belts, it always reminds me of what somebody who doesn't, if they're really fresh new white belt, it reminds me of what an average person would expect to do, or would try and do in not in a fight situation, because we know there's rules, so it's definitely a sport. But given the rules we've got, what would an ordinary person do? So a very fresh white belt, they would do what a person off the street. So I love rolling with them. It reminds me of what their thought processes are. Blue belts, love rolling blue belts. I've always got a couple of games or moves that I'm thinking about that I've either seen or I want, I've learned, and I'm trying to put them into my game. And when I roll with red belts, when I roll with purple belts, and I'm purple belt now. I've been a purple belt for 3 years now. I bring my A game, and then brown belts, I'm just trying to survive when I'm rolling against brown belts, just seeing if I can survive. And then I roll with black belts. It's always inspiration. It doesn't matter. It's like going back to the tennis analogy. If you played against Federer, I'm going to say you, because the likelihood of anybody watching this who's at Federer's level is unlikely. But so you or I, we had a game against Federer. We know that he could beat us with every serve. Just beat us every serve. But there'll be no point in him doing that. And it's the same with rolling with black belts. I know that they could beat me, and I'm not rolling to win. I'm rolling there to be inspired. I'm rolling with black belts to be inspired. Whether they, I don't roll with black belts and for them to whip an arm bar on, and snap an arm bar on. They should be, and they are. Not 99% of the time. They know where they are with the roll, and so they're showing me stuff. They're showing me. It's like a conversation. They're showing me that it's like they're saying, well, what would you do? What would you do, Marcus? I'd do this move. Oh, well, if you were to do that move, Marcus, what I would do is this. And sometimes the conversation goes on for minutes, and those are the points. It doesn't happen only with black belts, but it predominantly black belts. It happens with this. The conversation goes on for minutes. Well, I would do this. Well, if you did that, Marcus, then I would do this. Oh, well, if you did that, then I would do this. And that's the joy of Jiu-Jitsu for me. The ability to converse with somebody non-verbally in a very physical way, and if you get something wrong, if I get something wrong, or if they get something wrong, it ends up in a point where you say, "Aha! I trapped you," and you tap, and then you start again. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful sport. So if you're watching this, you probably know you already probably know it's a beautiful sport. But that's, for me, what I see as jiu-jitsu. And all of my instructors have always had the same view of it. So big up to Tom Buckmaster, my first instructor, and still my instructor. So literally from the first day I walked into Ray Stevens' academy, it was working out of a church hall or something, and he just encouraged, go other places, see other people, roll with other people, and more recently I roll quite a lot, well, as much as I can, at Roger Gracie's, and particularly with Junial, or in 10th Planet, big up 10th Planet. But they are on the other side of London, and they're quite tough to get to. And recently I've been working with Owen Flanagan, so big up to Owen if he's there, or somebody's out there knows him. So a variety of different people, and having these different conversations with them. As instructors, they're leading me down certain things, but they're all very respectful of each other. None of them are trying to compete against each other. So, Owen will be just teaching me leg lock stuff. I go to 10th Planet for the 10th Planet ideas, and they're very specific things that I kind of ask of them. Anyway. That's what I've learned. That's what I've learned from jiu-jitsu, that I love the ability to rock up and roll, and work with these different people. Okay, so I've got a few questions that have come through on my videos that I just thought would be quite nice to kind of answer. So number one, so this is, or the first one is Andre Carpi. A couple of months ago on one of my videos. Awesome job, congrats. You mentioned that you're seeing patterns in your game, so this is on the 52 sessions in a month. So I had the crazy idea that if you train once a week, which is some people train once a week, that would be 52 sessions in a year. Could I do that in a month? So he's commented on that. You mentioned seeing patterns in your game in the first 2 weeks. Could you clarify what kind of patterns? And he says, is it about stance? Is it about too much emphasis on one technique or position? And it's really, really, really good question. So when I did this challenge, as it were, this month, it was exactly a year ago. So it was November last year that I did it. The first 2 weeks was just trying to keep up with the schedule and trying to work out how I could physically make the sessions. Or the first week was. The second week, I was really like bored's the wrong word, overfilled with information. That's it. So it wasn't bored, I just couldn't see for information. Every session I went to, there was a teaching section to it. Some of them were open mats, but most of them were teaching sessions. And they would show me a move or something, and then I just didn't have time to process it, to think about it, to practice it. Definitely not practice it, but not even time to process it before the next session, and we learned something else. Luckily for me, a few of the sessions kind of tied in. Obviously, if you go to the same academy, they usually have do a week of side control, and then the next week they'll do another basic position, generally based around that. And I was lucky that a couple of the academies I was going to kind of matched up just by pure happenstance, which made it a little bit easier. But then, after the first 2 weeks, really coping physically and then mentally. It was the patterns that kept coming up. And it was like they slapped me in the face. And I hadn't noticed it before, but I still when I train, I see those patterns come up. That I always end up in the same places. And when I noticed it, I've asked my, the instructors, my senseis, and they say, well, and we'll roll, and they'll say stop. So 3 steps before the position that I always find myself in, they say stop. Here, this is the choice that you've made, and the choice you've made here will lead to you getting to this position. So Z-guard, I was stopping, not getting stuck necessarily in somebody else's Z-guard, but it was I was kind of kept finding myself in somebody else's Z-guard, and it didn't matter where I was, which academy. Wasn't every roll, but because it was so intense and so many sessions, I went, I'm in Z-guard again. And when I was in the Z-guard, I was trying the same moves. Sometimes it worked, I wasn't fussed about being in there, but I couldn't work out why I kept ending up there. And it took one of the instructors to go 3 steps back. At this point here, this is where you are making the choice to go down this path, and you will end up in their Z-guard. This was super, super interesting. These are the patterns. And then I could actually start working on, work weeks 3 and 4, I could start working with my instructors. And once I physically knew I could do it and mentally knew which bits I could filter out. So when teaching section, I'd be totally engaged with whichever technique we were doing, armbar, whatever it was. And that's cool. But then I kind of shut it off and go, okay, I'm not processing that. I'm not going to try and process it. I've got other things I need to work on, and then kind of working on these things. And that's where the patterns came, and started to find that my game was set by certain parameters, which now having had that experience and had a few sessions this year, obviously very, very limited compared to what we'd normally do. Now I've had maybe not a year's worth of training, probably about 52 sessions since last year. So I've now can choose which game I want to play, whether it's defensive, offensive, whether I want to practice certain techniques, or whether I want to, and this is amazing. So yeah, so thanks Andre. So hopefully that answers your question. Okay, so Tomat Chips asks, hey Marcus, great video. I've had a hard time making it to more than one session a week. What was your experience when you only trained at this volume? Was it still worth it? Okay, so to be fair, to be honest, I didn't train one session a week for very long. Okay, I was hooked. I was hooked to Jiu-Jitsu very quickly, and okay, there's been some times when I've been busy with other things where I've only trained once a week, but realistically, as soon as I started Jiu-Jitsu, I stepped up. So I couldn't honestly tell you what was my experience when I was only training once a week. I will say later on, one of the other questions that I just saw was Guskuls 25. How is 52 sessions a year's worth of sessions? Would you really call one session a week progress? I mean, would you? Well, I wasn't going to do 104, okay? I wasn't going to do the equivalent of 2 sessions a week in a month. 2 sessions a week for a year in a month. I wasn't going to do 104. So to answer, that was a later question. 52 sessions a year wasn't my thing. But realistically, going back to Tomat says, was it worth it? course it's worth it. Okay, 2 sessions a week. I think possibly 4 sessions is the ideal for me, to kind of work with work and family and whatever. But 1 session a week is better than no sessions a week. You can do whatever you can do. Don't judge yourself by what other people are doing. They have a different life. They have different things to do, different responsibilities. So once a week is better than none a week. Once a week is better than no times. Okay? So of course it's worth it. Okay, even for a mental health point of view, if you enjoy Jiu-Jitsu, then you're doing something you're enjoying. It's indoors, so it's not going to get rained off. You can put it on your weekly thing. So every Tuesday night, you're going to get an hour out of the house, an hour where you're doing some physical exercise with people you know, people you like, and enjoying yourself, but in a very intense kind of way. There's nothing like somebody trying to break your arm to really focus your thoughts. So, Tomat's chips, yes, of course it's worth it because you enjoy it. Do it. Okay. So, next question is loads of people asking my age. So Chad Wes says, may I ask what age you started Jiu-Jitsu? And Felix Luna, they're just 2 out of lots that I've picked. In fact, a question came through just as I was going on air. I couldn't see who it's from. Sorry if you just asked that question. How old are you? And I say it doesn't matter. So Felix Luna, I've just mentioned them. Yeah, it doesn't matter. As soon as you give your age, as soon as you tell somebody your age, it becomes a factor in how good you are. Okay, man, he's good and he's this age. Or if I'm rolling against somebody else, so easy to go, they beat me, yeah, but they're half my age, or they're twice my age, or they're 10 years younger, or 5 years younger. It becomes an excuse. It becomes an excuse for what you've been doing. Now, I train to get better, and I roll to test my jiu-jitsu. And age is not in that statement. Yeah, I can't change my age. Okay, I can change it. I'm getting older. But it doesn't. So I can't change it, so it doesn't matter. Right? If I thought that, and obviously I've got to be careful because we're all getting older. And presumably at some point, age will physically stop me doing stuff. But even then, what's the point of training if I don't see something I can improve on and then try and train to improve it? So, and actually somebody asked me this question while I was at Roger Grace's academy, and his dad was there, so Mauricio Gomez, and he just told me, he swore at me. He said, "Go away, go away, Marcus. I'm 64 next week." I'm like, okay. there was no answer to that. It was just a statement that, and then he walked away from me onto the mat, and then just started destroying people. So you just go, okay, well, it doesn't matter. The age really doesn't matter. So, so there you go. So you can ask me my age. I'm not ashamed of it. It's a fact. You can look it up if you really, really want to know how old I am. But I'm not going to tell you because it's not a factor in my training. Okay. If you ask me how my open guard is, I'll tell you that my lasso guard stinks. Oh, maybe I shouldn't have told you that. Maybe I'll meet you on the mat. But I'll tell you that because I can work on it. Okay, I can change that. And then hopefully if I see you in 2 weeks' time, my lasso guard won't stink because I'll have worked on it. All right. Okay. So a couple more questions. So SA1513. I don't know kind of, that's, don't know who that is. But anyway, they said, have you got your brown belt yet? Short answer, no. Not surprising, really. This year, the training's been sketchy. And also Ash, similar sort of time asked, when you go to so many gyms, who decides if you're ready to get promoted? So same question, have you got your brown belt? No. And who decides when you're ready to get promoted? Tom. He's my instructor. He's the guy who I won't even say I roll with him most, because I kind of don't. Our paths don't. This all seems so weird. This year, paths haven't crossed since March. But he's the one who's seeing my progression, and he's my coach, who I trust. Can see, okay, I want to see this from you, Marcus. You're not doing this. I want to see you do this, so I can go and I can do it, and then I can improve. And he's the one who would promote me. And none of my other instructors would even think of promoting me. It's just not their thing. If I changed gyms, I suppose, if I kind of officially changed to somebody else, somebody might not, but I've been with Tom, or Tom's been kind of guiding me for 7 years. So that's it. Easy. So, okay, what have I've got time for a couple more questions. Oh, so this isn't a question. I just liked it. This popped up, and I just went, I'm going to read that one out. So, Connor Thompson, 1 month ago, dope. Yeah, I can't argue with that. That's not a question. Yeah. And last question. Tony Martin says the video. This is a good one. So the video was posted on my 60th birthday. I plan to begin in 2022 when I'm 62. COVID should be gone. I'll have to do some serious weight training to give me some edge at that late age, and learn basic beginner stuff from YouTube too. Any other tips? Well, I can give you tips. Why wait till 2022? Just start next year, 2021. Believe me, everybody's going to be very weak as the season starts in January. But my tip for starting is always the same. Okay, find a gym or an academy that you feel comfortable at. That's the most important. Okay. And for me, the best gyms are the ones that encourage flow rolling. Okay. If you go 100%, you're going to get injured. If you get injured, you can't train. And especially with the 52 sessions video of mine, I got injured. I worked through it. I really shouldn't have. Luckily, the time of year meant I knew I was going to have quite a lot of time off afterwards. But realistically, flow rolling is king. Technique. Because even if you go with the idea that you won't learn as much, maybe you'll learn 70% of what you would if you go for it 100%. But if you're only training half of the time because you're injured, then overall you're going to learn more. Okay, so personally, for me, is find a gym that you feel comfortable at, and one that encourages flow rolling, because it's about technique, and not getting injured. It's very easy to look at the professionals and kind of see them going 100%, or even the competition guys at your academy going for 100%, but their life is different. If you're not doing it for a living, if you do something else for a living, you can't afford to get injured. So don't get injured. The way that is technique. Okay. Tap early, technique. So next week's, I thought I'd go talk same thing, 7 o'clock next Wednesday, and I'll talk about gyms and training. So that question leads in really nicely to that. So as you know, I've been around the world to quite a few different gyms, and I'll kind of give a resume, review of gyms. So if anybody, if Jamie wants to kind of give me a new 10th Planet t-shirt, I'll kind of take that into consideration when I give the reviews of the gyms I've been to. No, I'll just next week talk about gyms and training, and then again answer some of the questions that have come up specifically about that. Okay. Oh, sorry, the question came in. A live question came in. How's 15 years of breath work and freediving help support your BJJ? Well, I started by saying that I actually teach breathing and relaxation techniques to Jiu-Jitsu players. So, in fact, I'm going to hold that. Thanks very much for that question, Kiri Freya. So, I'm going to answer that next week. I'm going to put it down as part of the gyms and training live stream next Wednesday at 7 o'clock. Okay. Thank you very much for joining me or watching, and hopefully I'll see you next week. If you've got any questions, you can put them on my Facebook or on a comment on this video, and I'll answer it next week. Okay, so thank you very much.